Hello, everyone. Welcome back to PISA Week 1, Day 4. For those of you whom I haven't met yet, I'm Carmen Mazzara, Executive Director of APSIA, the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs, home of the Public and International Service Advisor Network. We are so glad to have you as part of PISA Week, where we bring together not only for this week, but throughout the year, all of you, academic advisors and faculty and staff and career and fellowship advisors, to hopefully help make it easier for you to champion public and international service on your campuses. I'm so grateful to my team at APSIA for helping us make these events possible, especially my colleague Baungong Chur and Brianna Suarez, who really are the ones who help us put one foot in front of the other. I'm also grateful to the Robertson Foundation for Government that also makes these kinds of activities possible, and to all of you for joining us. We have some fantastic speakers who are here to talk about the graduate school process. If you have missed any of our earlier sessions on careers and on helping students tell their story, or any of the content we've been able to bring to you this week, it is available on the APSIA YouTube page, and we'll make sure that link is in the chat for you to be able to revisit that content, even if you were there to catch back up on what folks said. We also hope you will join us tomorrow, where the APSIA team will be online to share a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and hopefully what PISA can do for you. And then also tomorrow, you will get an evaluation survey that we hope you will complete to let us know where we've done well and where we can always continue to improve for future advisors. And so with that, I'm delighted to turn the floor over to Elise Goss-Alexander, a fellow academic advisor in the trenches with all of you, to kick off our conversation. Elise, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Elise Goss-Alexander. I use she, her pronouns. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, sorry, not only helping students prepare, but also pay for grad school. I know for a lot of you, this is probably like the $1 million question. Should my students go to grad school? Where should they go? How does it work? How are they going to pay for it? Is it worth it? So I'm excited to dig into all of that with our three speakers today. We have Anne Thompson, Associate Director of Graduate Enrollment at University of Denver, here with me at the Korbel School of International Studies. We have Shannon Chapman, Assistant Dean of Enrollment and Student Services at University of Texas at Austin and the Lyndon B Johnson School of Public Affairs. And finally, we also have Victoria Perez de Agreda, Associate Director for the New York Center at IE University. You can see their full bios in the materials, and I'll ask them to provide a little bit more information as we get started. But first, mild housekeeping. If you can all mute your mics and turn off your cameras for now. And then if you have questions that come up, thoughts, feelings, put them in the chat box while we're talking. And then we're gonna talk for 30-ish minutes, and then we're gonna have like 20-ish minutes to be in conversation with all of you. So put your questions in the chat now. We'll come to them as we go through. So as we're getting started, I'm going to go in that same order. So Annie, Shannon, and Victoria, if you want to provide any further context to yourself and how you are coming to this conversation, and then also provide a response to my super secret question of, is there a hard and fast rule about students going to grad school? Should they go to grad school? Why or why not? Why is there a hard and fast rule? Why is there not a hard and fast rule? So I will turn it over to Annie.
Great. Thank you, Elise, and thank you all for being here today. Thrilled to be able to share a little bit. I work at, as Elise said, I work at the Korbel School of International Studies at the University of Denver. So we serve students who are coming to graduate school to study international affairs and public policy here at the University of Denver. And to answer Elise's question, my short answer would be no. There is no hard and fast rule on whether or when a student should go to grad school. But the longer answer is there are, of course, some factors to consider. We do, when reviewing applications, we do look at a student's sorry, lost my train of thought. We do look at a student's experience that they are bringing to the table, not just in the classroom, but of course, a little bit more hands-on experience, international experience. And a lot of those things you can't come to without having a few years between your undergraduate degree and starting graduate school. That being said, we do like to have students come to us. Some students come to us straight from undergraduate as well. We really feel that that brings a pretty diverse round of experiences to the classroom to be able to have folks coming straight from undergrad, you know, in that really that academic headspace, as well as coming to us with a few years of field work or international work under their belt as well. So it's a little bit nuanced. I don't believe there's a hard and fast rule at all, and really kind of dependent on the student and also the kind of class that we're building for that year with the amount of applicants we get straight from undergrad or otherwise.
Thank you. How about you, Shannon? A little bit of context, and then do you have a hard and fast rule on whether and when students should go to grad school?
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, my name is Shannon Chapman. I'm over here at the LBJ School at UT Austin. And I sort of am over the office of what we call our Office of Student Affairs and Admissions, where we really help students from first inquiry with the program all the way to graduation. And I agree with Annie. I don't think it is pretty nuanced, and I do think it's an individual choice. Obviously, all students come to the decision to pursue grad school at different times for different reasons. And then, you know, the exposure to even the idea of grad school as a possibility can come up at various times in their undergrad experience. And I think, you know, additionally, the need to kind of further one's skill set can pop up at different times in one's life. Some students may use, you know, grad school more as a launching pad, of course, for a desired career pathway. Some may use it as a pivot point. Some may use it to enhance, you know, leadership qualities or experiences that they already have. So I agree again with Annie that there's really no one size fits all pathway. And we do see this in our application pool year over year. I personally love to see folks with some sort of substantive experience under their belt so that they can kind of pull on that experience to create.
Oh, good. Yeah.
To create, you know, to help create a more robust discussion inside the classrooms. But yes, I think it's a very nuanced, experience. Of course, looking at match with the program, fit with the program, whether or not the program will help them fit their needs and their future goals at the point of application.
Thank you. And Victoria.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm with iUniversity representing the School of Global and Public Affairs. So we have two different programs, our Master in International Relations and Master in International Development. And for both of those programs, we see students with around 0 to 8 years work experience. So we definitely have that, you know, recent grad who applies whilst they're a senior in college. And then we have someone who maybe has 1 to 2 internships or 1 year of work experience, or as much as, you know, more of like a mid-career professional who's deciding to potentially make a pivot or to specialize. So I think international relations space and graduate education within that is super interesting for your students potentially to specialize if they've already studied political science or international affairs, global studies, or the likes in their undergraduate degrees, but then potentially also to generalize for people who come from a background, you know, in business or potentially even engineering. health studies as well. So that's really the great value of that international relations graduate education space, is it can really kind of serve going in those two different directions. So I've already started to answer the question a little bit of like, is there a hard, fast rule? So no, I agree with my two other colleagues on the call. Definitely not. It's going to depend on the student and what makes sense for them. Some students have, you know, a desire to continue studying and don't know exactly where they want to fall in the labor market when they're looking to graduate from their bachelor's degrees. And some students are like, oh no, I need to pay off my student loans before I can even think about the idea of grad school and what that might look like, right? So I think that that innate interest and desire is going to come from the students themselves. And so my recommendation there is really, you know, when it makes sense for each and every student, that's going to be the right time for them. And there's always going to be a program to meet their needs. You know, luckily we live in a world where there are a lot of amazing universities and great programs, members of APSIA, you know, so there really is a great roster and database for them to start researching programs. You know, I'm located in connecting from New York City today because it's late in Madrid for my other colleagues, but you know, we're located in Madrid, Spain. And so really depending on the university, it can give a different experience, enhance the curriculum, looking at, you know, someone's career post-graduation. One last note to kind of finish off on is, I think that recommending to really understand why someone wants to study international relations and what type of program they're looking for is a key prompt that you can give to your students when they start to think about the space. You know, it's not the same to do a 2-year research-based program or a 1-year, you know, based program, which focuses a little bit more on like a practical skill set. We can discuss this more in detail. I'm sure that each of the different programs of my colleagues' institutions have specificities and different added values that they can give to students. And so really kind of that idea of researching, going to an APSIA fair. I went to an APSIA fair when I was looking for my graduate degree in international relations, and that's where on what degree I wanted to study. So in that regard, you know, there really is such a wealth of information that APSIA is providing. Obviously, that's where we're all on the call here today. So happy to discuss more, and sorry if that was a longer answer to your question.
That was great and thorough. So I guess building off of some of what you were talking about there, like why grad school? Like what role can grad school play in professional success, especially in this field? And how might that vary depending on industry, sector, role, level of experience?
Are we going in the same order or?
Follow your heart.
Pardon?
I said, follow your heart. So if you have thoughts, feel free to jump in.
Okay, sure. I can go ahead. Well, I think grad school kind of gives students not only a deep dive into that, the skills needed to excel, you know, in their sort of desired area of expertise, but also the soft skills, communication, organization, that executive functioning that many career pathways demand of employees. And public policy, you know, global policy masters in particular, I think receive a multidisciplinary degree and therefore can be and are successful in a really a vast array of industries and functional areas, you know, from private, nonprofit, government, so many different industries and roles. The skills gained through a public global policy program really do set students up for success. You know, again, communication, public speaking, writing, especially strong knowledge of the political, social, economic landscape and backgrounds and systems, everything from all of that to data analysis, policy evaluation, strategic thinking. So, you know, at the LBJ school, we've seen students really excel in many various industries and roles just because they're getting a very broad, not only that deep dive expertise in a particular policy area, but a broad set of skills that set them up for success.
Yeah, I completely agree with Shannon. Similarly, I think being able to just have a broader understanding of even how to accomplish their ultimate career goals. We've had a lot of great conversations with Korbel alumni recently with our admitted students, and really interesting to hear some of their career paths and how they pivoted when they were in graduate school, because they had these broader goals of what they wanted to accomplish, why they went into the international studies field, and then to kind of pivot while they were in graduate school from maybe focusing on NGO work towards more into the government sector or public policy or what have you, based on their goals, but just kind of seeing their eyes open up to the different possibilities that were even out there that could serve their ultimate passions and goals as well. So
one of the benefits of going last is that I get to agree with what the previous speakers have just mentioned. So to add on all of those excellent points, I think that graduate school, it's smaller class sizes, it's very tailored to one topic. You have the opportunity to be networking with classmates who have work experience or are interested in the same field as you, professors as well. And then students are not alone. Graduate school offers the opportunity to take you by the hand and give you career coaching workshops, have different speakers and companies and institutions recruit on campus. And even within the academic programming, at IE, for example, our 2 master's programs, one we produced together with the United Nations College. So if someone wants to go into the UN multilateral system, they already have some really, great connections through that program. And then our Master in International Relations is co-produced with the OECD. So, in that respect, the programs themselves with different corporate partners, capstone projects, depending on what the structure is going to give an exposure to employers who are looking to recruit students coming out of graduate programs with that specialized knowledge. And then in international relations field, generally to this day, most jobs are going to require a master's degree. I think it's uniquely one of the few fields where a graduate education is required for a lot of different, let's say, permanent roles, not for, younger professional or internships, but one does see that quite often, I think. And so this is a unique sphere in the multilateral sector, I would say, and government. Perhaps in the private sector, it's a little bit more flexible, as well as maybe in the NGO space, but definitely sometimes just a basic entry requirement, right? So that graduate school experience is going to give access to all of the job opportunities versus maybe, 30% without a master's degree.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. So when I talk to students, I often tell them that I had a bad reason for going to grad school, which was that when I was in college, I studied abroad in Syria during the Arab Spring, and then I became a senior and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like, I'll go to grad school and study until I can fix it. So I tell students, grad school doesn't fix your depression, and it doesn't equip you to immediately stop civil wars. So I'm wondering for you all, what are some good reasons and some bad reasons that you've seen for students to choose graduate school in public service or international affairs?
I mean, personally, I like.
Sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, sorry. I think I may be on a slight delay here. Internet issue, connectivity issue. So I hope you can hear me. Okay. Just in general, I'd like to see, students or applicants that have sort of an intrinsic or internal reason, that they've sort of thought through not only what change they want to make through the knowledge learned, both in sort of their own career, but also in the world. Some less compelling reasons is sort of, my boss asked me to go to grad school. So more like external factors. I think they need to have an internal drive for either how they're going to better themselves or better the world. Grad school is an intense experience, so they need to have compelling reasons to do it, so they can, stick it through and see it to the end. I know that was pretty general, but.
No, that was great. Thank you.
I'll jump in next. So one of my reasons to go to grad school, which grad school, was based on location. And so that may be perceived as sometimes a superficial or bad reason, but I think that when one is looking to enhance one's CV in preparation for a career in international relations, location and exposure to a new culture and a new language can be another valuable part in addition to the context of the. So, someone who's located outside of the United States and decides to, move to the US and have that exposure, and who's potentially not a native English speaker and have an exposure to be studying in English, well, that's going to do really great things for their profile. Similarly, we see a lot of students come to study at IU University in Madrid because they want to learn Spanish, perfect their Spanish, and live in Europe, or because they're interested in European Union policy. And so therefore being in a school in Europe, which integrates that into the curriculum, already a kind of European special that they can use then for their career pursuits, right? So in terms of good reasons, I think that motivation and excitement, so an intrinsic motivation, speaking to Shannon's point about like an external factor of like, well, because my cousin went there, I want to go there with my friend because they want to go there, maybe that's part of your reasoning, but that shouldn't be your only reasoning. And if that's your first touch point with a school and gets you excited about it, you'd encourage your students to think, okay, but what other reasons make it, valuable for you to attend that school? Not that just you're not going to be alone because maybe you're going or applying together with a friend or something like that. So coming back to good reasons, I think really, the focus of the program, the location, the additional activities that the school can offer, they align with the interests that the student has. And then the overall experience that you're looking for is it's not going to be the same to go to a small private university with 25 students in the classroom or a larger, institution with, maybe a graduate class of 200 students, for example. Also, different specialization options, are quite popular in the international relations space because it is a broad field. So different programs will offer the opportunity to specialize on geographical areas or functional areas. And so depending on the interest that one might have, if one already knows what it is as a student, sometimes grad school is to kind of explore and get inspired. But if one already knows, then one can really hone in on a program that, is going to offer you to learn Arabic and focus on, the Arab Spring in your curriculum as an example.
I'll keep my answer brief because, as Victoria said, it's great to go last and be able to agree with Shannon and Victoria. And Elise, it's so relatable that you said you tell your advisees that you went to grad school for the wrong reasons, because I picked grad school purely for the grad school that I went to for funding reasons, which is a big factor to consider, of course. But I believe if I had dug a little bit deeper, I could see that there were other things about the program that didn't quite match what I was looking for. So I think being able to lay out to your advisees what those funding opportunities are, and that there's a bigger picture here that maybe you won't be getting quite the same one-on-one attention at some places, or the type of internships you're looking for, or the type of hands-on work you're looking for. So not having things come down just to funding, though I know that's a huge, huge factor.
Yes, money definitely matters. So you've talked a little bit about this, especially Victoria, but what are some of those factors that impact a student's grad school experience? So you mentioned location, we heard a little bit about cost and size. I'm also thinking maybe like demographics would be an important thing for some of our students. So thinking generally, what are some of these factors, but maybe also like in your particular program where you work, what are some of the factors that you think impact the graduate student experience?
Happy to go again. So yeah, in addition to the things that you've mentioned, cost, demographics, class size, the student to faculty ratio is usually pretty important. The ability to customize. We offer the students the ability to take electives and specializations from, departments all across the UT Austin campus, from other, top ranked programs. We offer many dual degree options for students. So that's important to consider. What access to job opportunities and employer relations does the school offer? What sort of student services? How are students supported outside of the classroom in terms of career services, professional development, that sort of thing? How robust is the alumni network? Is there, a mentorship program that matches students with active alumni that can sort of help them on their career path, and navigate that pathway? Does the school provide robust advising? Those are just some of the top considerations that I can think of. Also what sort of student employment, and we can talk a little bit about that, and maybe the funding question. So those are just some of the top things that come to my mind, but there's so many different considerations.
Yeah, thank you.
One of the concerns that some of our students have when coming to Korbel is the whether to choose a school in Denver, Colorado, when their ultimate goal is to work in Washington, D.C., for example. So looking into the opportunities that you still have to network in the places you'd like to be, the Korbel School does offer an opportunity to either do a short-term internship or a longer-term, not study abroad, but study in D.C. Program, so that students can still come to the Korbel School but have that accessibility to DC. Is kind of one example of looking a little bit deeper into what those concerns may be and how the school addresses those needs that you may have. Otherwise, I would say Shannon that was a great list of things to consider when looking at grad school, and really every student has such individual needs. As we've seen, and sometimes it's someone working in enrollment, you don't want to admit this, but it's not the right fit. But yeah, that was, I just agree with Shannon, quite a great list of things to consider.
Yeah, I think you get 20 stars for that answer, Shannon. Way to go last on this one. But yeah, just maybe two additional points that come to mind. One is going to be, trying to hone in on what type of sector they want to work in. So for example, at IE, the Master in International Development, it focuses on the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda of the United Nations. If somebody wants to work in sustainability or in the United Nations, well, that's a pretty tailored, honed in specific program, which is going to give them, contacts and content related to that, right? So really, there are so many great programs out there with specificities and different opportunities that are really, valuable to the right student who's interested in the program based on that content, right? And then another thing, I think location, yes, but more, even kind of going beyond that, is going to be different field work experience. So for example, at IE, the Master in International Relations has a field work trip to Brussels, visits NATO, that's really popular in the news right now, right? And other organizations. And with our Master in International Development, because it's co-produced with the UN, it's basically visiting a UN mission, right? So again, in a one-year program, which is quite short and goes by, you know, in a blink of an eye when you're having a great time in grad school, well, it's also that additional opportunity to say, okay, I can envision myself having that job, or that job's not for me. So that's also super valuable, is to have that type of exposure, you know, through also practical field work within the program to kind of help you, you know, decide what career path you want to pursue post-graduation.
Thank you. That's a really thoughtful response. Okay, so final question from me, and then we'll shift over to broader conversation with our attendees, is this question of money that we've kind of touched on briefly in a couple different points. And especially as we're thinking about like access and equity in education, and especially in our field as international affairs is coming to grapple more directly with some of these questions and power and privilege. Like, how do you think about access and affordability in grad school? And what is your school doing to make grad school more accessible and more affordable?
I'm happy to let someone else go first on this one. I've been going first all along, or I'm happy to go first, either way.
I can jump in. So IE University is a private university. We're the #1 university in Spain. So being a private university, our tuition is higher than public European schools. So that's something that we've really given a lot of thought to and have extensively sought out financing options for our students. For our School of Global and Public Affairs particularly, and our Master in International Relations and International Development, we have partnered with the Fulbright Commission. And so anyone who's interested in going to Spain and pursuing a master's, one of those 2 master's degrees at IE from the United States is eligible for 100% funding. It covers also, you know, living expenses, health insurance, etc. So that really is one amazing opportunity. There is one scholarship available for our 2 programs, but again, the pool of applicants is quite small, because looking at students who are eligible for those scholarships coming from the United States, you know, maybe it's going to be 12 students for one scholarship. So, you know, that's not the worst. It's not the worst ratio in the world. And the Fulbright application process is a rigorous one, so it does, you know, turn some people away as well. In addition to that, we have also partnered with the Eisenhower Foundation to offer the Eisenhower Global Scholars Program. So together with Oxford University, IE Master in International Relations, it's also 100% scholarship. And we offer 2 of those per year only for our Master in International Relations for US citizens and residents. So that's another really great opportunity. And this is in addition to IE scholarships, which are financed Foundation. They're partial scholarships covering up to around 40% of tuition. So those are just some of the scholarship opportunities that we offer specifically for these programs. So we don't want any of our students to not be able to attend our programs because they're unable to finance them. It is true that being an immersive 1-year program, it's very difficult, and we do not recommend for students to work at the same time as they are pursuing a program. So there is going to have to be, you know, even just for living costs and housing costs, you know, there always is going to be an additional cost associated to tuition that our students do, you know, need to be aware of and prepare for. And so in order to, you know, bridge that gap where, you know, scholarships sometimes only cover tuition but not living expenses, we partner with different banks and financial institutions around the world in order to provide preferential loans for our students with a grace period. So whilst they're a student, they don't have to repay the loan. So I know that this is, you know, common for many other universities, but these are just some of the ways that we, you know, bridge that gap in terms of accessibility. And then a last note on that is that our application is completely online. And nowadays with COVID, it was hard to, you know, get a GRE date or a location depending on where you were, or you didn't want to leave your home. So IE University, we offer our IE Global Admissions Test, which is completely free. And that you can take instead of the GRE and the GMAT. We offer them every day of the week online from the comfort of your home. So can't get any easier than that, to really just go for it and submit your application. So last note to you all is really just encourage your students to apply throughout the process. They're going to find out what the benefits they are eligible for with each of the different schools. And us here on the call and extensive teams at our universities are here to really, kind of coach them through the process and make sure that it's a right fit mutually, right?
I can speak a little bit about Korbel specifically. We, similarly to IE, we do partner with Fulbright and a few other government fellowships within the US with Siegel and Rangel fellows, for example, with matching opportunities with our own Korbel sponsored awards. And we also serve quite a large population of returning Peace Corps volunteers who work with the Coverdale Fellowship Program too, to help cover their graduate school expenses. We do offer scholarships to our incoming students. About 70% of our students do get offered some sort of scholarship from the Korbel school that is merit-based aid, and it can cover up to 60% of their tuition costs, which of course is just tuition, and then you do have to consider those living costs, as Victoria mentioned. And we do have 5 fully funded fellowships that students are automatically considered for when they apply for admission to the school as well. And those do come with a living stipend to help cover those costs. But because we're a 2-year program, so it's not quite as breakneck of a pace as maybe at IE. So we do encourage students to seek out job opportunities on campus, whether they be research aid positions or administrative aid positions. We do have a lot of opportunities for our master's students to work on campus, and they're able to, help cover some of those living costs, but also get hands-on research or field experiences with our faculty at the same time. So it's kind of mutually beneficial in that way. But as Victoria said, I would just, encourage your students to apply and be in touch with the school to see what opportunities are out there to help with funding. I hope it's at the forefront in a lot of admissions and enrollment offices' mind. And I know all the APSIA schools often work on accessibility of these degrees for students. So we'll just encourage them to apply and be in touch with those schools to find a way to make it happen.
And brief shout out to our Korbel student employees. We'll actually be recognizing one of the TAs as our graduate student employee of the year next week.
Yay, love hearing that.
That's exciting. Not much more to add. Similarly to Annie, about 70% of our students receive some sort of funding. About 50 or so, 45 to 50 entering students will receive, 45 to 50% will receive some sort of admissions fellowship assistance. And we offer what we call enrolled student fellowships. So fellowships that they can apply for after they've been admitted and enrolled. In addition to, the partnering with the external groups, Rangel, Fulbright, et cetera. We try to keep our tuition low. So the LBJ school is one of the most affordable schools out there. And our students also, have the ability to pursue other financing options, such as, federal financial aid, various tuition exemptions and waivers. Our international office offers funding. The VA can offer funding as well. And then student academic employment in regards to different TA ships, GRA ships, that sort of thing. And our financial aid and fellowships office does a really good job at sort of curating an outside list of outside funding opportunities and really helping our students navigate that process as well.
Elise, if you don't mind, I just wanted to add that since life is unpredictable and we've just, been in a crazy pandemic, i.e. being a private institution, we added an additional, fund of scholarships for existing students whose families were affected by COVID. And so even though we have a one-year program, if for whatever reason, suddenly a student at IE, was unable to pay their rent because their parents were supporting them and their parents lost their jobs due to COVID, we wanted to make sure that our students, didn't have to interrupt their studies. Similarly, we have a special scholarship fund for students from countries in special, not to use a more, sad word, dire situations. And so last summer, for example, it was our Lebanese students who were, applying to that scholarship fund. And this year it's unfortunately our Ukrainian students. And so in that regard, being a completely global university with students coming from all over the world, also Syrian nationals, Afghan nationals, we also have funding specifically for students from countries in special dire situations. So just to kind of add that as well, that's not the norm, and hopefully not most applicants don't need to think about that, and they're going through a bit more of a happy streamlined applying to their graduate education process. But as schools, we're also here to support those who are in more difficult situations as well.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So that's about all that I wanted to ask you, but I know that we have some questions from attendees, one starting about dual enrollment. Carmen, do you want to share what that question was?
Sure. Thanks to everybody who sent them directly to me, and you're also welcome to put them in the chat. The question that I have first is about dual degree programs. So when should students be recommended in that direction? When should students be steered away from that direction? And if they are interested in a dual degree, could folks talk a little bit about the mechanics? Do you apply to both, one and the other? Can you change your mind halfway through? Lots of unpacking of that world, because we know a lot of students feel like that's the way they should go, but perhaps it's not the right fit for them.
Great. Oh, sorry, Shannon.
Go for it, Amy.
Great question. At the Korbel School, we do offer 4 dual degrees within University of Denver, and each process is a little bit different. So it is for application to those dual degrees, but we encourage students to, the sooner they know they'd like to pursue those dual degrees, the easier it is, because they will apply for both programs and receive separate funding from each program that will go towards the year that you spend with that individual unit at the University of Denver, for example. So the sooner that students know they want to kind of pursue those opportunities, we have a dual degree with our law school, our School of Business, International Communication School, and Professional School of Social Work. So really a vast array of opportunities. I've encouraged students to really think about, to really get in touch with both schools' advisors to see if their career that they are looking into truly needs the dual degree, because it can take a little longer. It does add to some of your expenses as well, of course, if you're taking more classes or adding more time to that degree. And we do find that students having a good understanding of what their career path would like, where they'd like their career path to be, can help them really decide if they need to take that course, or if they can maybe take some courses while just getting the MA, one of the MAs from the Korbel School. So just having a good understanding of what their ultimate career goal can really make a difference in pointing them in the right direction as far as dual degrees go.
I think that's really great advice, because it's the dual programs can be pretty intense, and it takes usually at UT a full year more. Law would be an additional 2 years. Our Masters of Global Policy Studies, we offer 10 dual degrees, and then our Masters of Public Affairs, around 14 duals. Students can either apply, at the forefront of the admissions process, so apply for the joint degree program right at the front, or they have up until right before they take 50% of their LBJ curriculum, they can still apply for duals, but beyond that point, it's kind of too late. Yeah, but Annie had a lot of really good points in terms of the different financial ramifications and ensuring that a dual is really needed for their career pathway, because it is a big commitment. The other way that students have the ability to customize their degree is to, of course, consider taking electives. Our students can take electives from all across campus to really specialize that way. In our GPS program, our Master of Global Policy program actually offers different specializations. So it's a different way to customize without going the full for the full throttle dual experience.
To add to that, dual degrees at IE, because we offer 1-year accelerated master's programs, work a little bit differently. So at IE, our dual degrees that we offer with our School of Global and Public Affairs is with our business school. So basically students can enroll in our international MBA or our Master in Management, which is a junior MBA program. They'll do 2/3 of that program, and then they'll do the international relations or international development program in its entirety. We require students to apply to the dual degree program from the beginning. With our online application, students can apply to 2 different programs with the same documents. So they can do international relations and international development, or a dual degree and the program standing by itself, because the profile for our business school is different and quantitative skills are more necessary, shall we say. We do need to give admission to both programs, or both different content segments, shall we say. And so even though one applies to the dual degree as one application, one will be considered kind of from those 2 different angles in the application process. So for dual degrees at IE, basically, it's first a business degree, then an international relations degree. We require students to apply to the dual degree from the beginning. That about sums it up. And yes, scholarship opportunities are also going to be specific to that. Our dual degree program, because it's not 2 full programs, it's 2/3 of one and the whole of another. The tuition is already a reduced tuition. And also in the end, at IE, a lot of students go for dual degrees because you get an master's in a 1.5 years, right? So time-wise, in terms of just the investment of time and cost, because the tuition is reduced, it is a very attractive option. And so we see a lot of students pursue dual degree options as well. So you can always recommend to your students that if they're interested in the business education plus international relations, at least that's how it stands at IE, to definitely go and apply for the dual degree. They don't lose anything. They just add a second program onto their online application. And then through the application process, if they receive admission, and they have the right profile and the right motivation, then they can look at the finances. And then if that also makes sense, then they can decide to commit to the dual degree, which is more expensive than a standalone program.
Thank you. And I know that's kind of a complex process, so hopefully this was really helpful for our advisors on the line. We also had a question, jumping back. Victoria, you had mentioned a little bit about changing requirements during COVID, and I know that's something that several schools have done. So if you could each talk a little bit about like GREs, other admissions requirements, and where you see those trends going in terms of what your school looks for and prioritizes.
Happy to go. Sorry, I got dropped from the Zoom, but I'm back. So we at UT Austin, for the LBJ school, we waived the GRE during the COVID years. We waived it again for this fall 2022 entry. that is going up to our GSC, our sort of faculty committee, to sort of review and vote on for future years. So I don't know what the future holds. But for right now, that was probably one of the biggest sort of COVID related changes that came down for our students. So our program is pretty quant heavy. So because we don't have that sort of data point now for many of our students from the GRE, we ask very specific quantitative based questions in the application now, so students can kind of control their narrative around their various quantitative preparedness. And then we offer a robust quant prep preparedness program throughout the summer to help prepare them for success for some of the core courses required in the fall semester.
Similarly, the Korbel School and actually University of Denver as a whole dropped the GRE requirement right before COVID really hit, actually. So this is a permanent change for the Korbel School. The GRE is completely optional for all of our applicants. And because of that, as similarly to what Shannon said, it does change the kind of data we get in students' understanding of and abilities within the quantitative sphere. And so we did change and made our prompts a little bit more for our personal statements, a little bit more focused on that skill set. So we could get a clear understanding of where our incoming students are in terms of ability and understanding. But so we just kind of general application fee waivers as well to ease some of the financial burden of the past 2 years due to the pandemic, and changing slightly some of the ways that we accept official transcripts, because I know particularly for international students, it was difficult to get the hard paper transcripts that they needed, and just logistically. So changing how we accept those as well made a big difference in just accessibility for our applicants.
I don't have too much to add to that that I didn't mention already, but in terms of trends and where it's going, I mean, the schools definitely, have struggled with deciding whether to waive an entrance exam, because there is no other part of an application which gives you that kind of information. And so, as my colleagues were mentioning, you kind of have to then try and get it somewhere else. And the idea is not necessary to be a barrier to entry. It's to make sure that the student is going to be successful in the program, and that the student is going to have a minimum required level together with other fellow students, that they can seamlessly then, take on new information without, not being able to keep up. So it's really focusing on student success, because they are, short graduate degrees at IE 1 year, you're really just jumping right into the content. It's not a 4-year bachelor's where you have time to ease in and you have, 3 different levels of the same course, where you have an introductory level to make sure everyone's up to speed, right? So at IE University, because we also have applicants from all over the world and completely different educational systems, we have not waived the entrance exam requirement. We offer as an alternative our own exam, the IE Global Admissions Test, which, as I mentioned, free of charge, and we offer proctored virtually in small groups of 4 students every day in the week. So really, we couldn't, as a school, based on our student population and that everyone's an international student, afford to lose that data touch point. But we have this alternative that we have had in place for many years. We used to offer it in person. And then with the pandemic, we moved to a virtual model where it's now offered every day of the week as well.
Great, thank you all. I see we're coming up on the hour, so I'll give you a moment to think of any concluding remarks. If there's anything you want to add. In the meantime, let's all clap silently or put our thanks in the chat box. And I believe the APSIA team is also going to be launching a quick poll for our attendees to share some feedback on this event. And we will also be having a Friday session tomorrow somehow tomorrow is Friday, to learn more about PISA and APSIA. So that poll is up, the Friday session link is in the chat box, and if our panel has any last thoughts, this would be a good time to chime in.
I do, but I'll let somebody else go first.
Well, I'll just hop in and say my thanks to Carmen, Elise, the whole team at APSIA for setting this up, and for all of you for being here. It does, having good advisors just makes such a difference to these incoming students and navigating, quite a complex world of graduate school, particularly in international affairs, I think, and helping to really grow that field and the accessibility and diversity within the field. So just wanted to thank you all for what you do and for your time here today.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I have such a strong heart for what advisors do. They're so key and important in the success of students. So thank you so much for everything you do. And thanks to Carmen and Brittany and team for having me.
I echo sentiments as well. One last parting thought is just encourage your students to apply. I see a lot, especially women, they're like, oh, but I'm not going to get in, but you are going to get in. So just apply. So we see that a lot where, even myself, when I was thinking about grad school is, oh, well, what if I don't get admitted? What if I'm not good enough? And so that shadow of a doubt lives with everyone when we're trying to do something new. And we see that a lot in the graduate school space, and in particular, with minorities and women. And so make sure to just show some extra love and just encourage them to apply. They're great. They're probably going to get into some school, if not all the schools, you know what I mean? Of course, there's always a program for everyone, but, really just encourage them to apply. And that's my parting thought for all of these types of events. Is graduate school is not a scary monster. It's a fabulous experience. And so everyone should just apply and go for it. Thank you.
I want to add my thanks to everybody else. And I love that jump in with both feet attitude. Victoria, I don't know if I had it. I definitely don't have it now that I'm old and crusty, but I really appreciate all of you, all of your insights. And again, to all of our advisors, we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.